Continue our coverage with retired Brigadier General John Teichert, former U.S. Air Force combat pilot, senior defense official in Iraq. General Teichert, it's always good to have you on. Guys, if we have the Post, we're going to see the president at an event that he's holding. It's actually like a college sports event, but you never know. He may talk about the war. He did yesterday at a sports-related event, so that's coming up at the White House. If we have the Post he had on Truth Social, let's pop that back up. This was just moments ago, General Teichert. He had a meeting earlier with these defense contractors at the White House, and here's the Post saying that it concluded, and then the line, they've agreed to quadruple production of the exquisite class weaponry that we want to reach as rapidly as possible. So they've been, downplaying concerns the last couple of days, whether it's President Trump or Secretary Hegseth about stockpiles, but clearly there must have been some concern, right, if you have this meeting and now this agreement?
Connell, I think that what's going on in Iran is a great reminder to all of us that we do need stockpiles, that we need domestic production capability at a quantity that is relevant to deter first and then to defeat if necessary. And I think what's going on during the last week is a great reminder for us that we are behind in stockpiles, and we need to make sure that we turn that around so we can deter and defeat if necessary.
Now, I want to talk big picture about the war effort with you. The shot below us on the screen there is from the White House and that event that's going to start soon. You wrote this piece and, it was on thehill.com. And the headline from the piece is that Trump's air war in Iran follows the Obama and Clinton precedents. Talk to us about the case that you're articulating about how you see things.
Connell, I just wanted to remind the reader, especially the decision makers on the Hill, that this is not something extreme or new. In 1999, in the war in the former Yugoslavia, President Clinton fought a 78-day air war. The only objective was humanitarian, and he never got congressional approval. And then in 2011, President Obama did the same thing in Libya, but it was 7 months long, and again, only humanitarian objectives and never getting congressional approval. And I just wanted to add that perspective to the discussion about precedent and how what we're doing today with now humanitarian and national security objectives is not something new. In fact, the case is stronger now than it was in 99 or 2011.
All right, so you get that in the mix with this debate even over war powers that we've had in both the House and the Senate over the last couple of days. So as you watch that and compare it to those campaigns, what about this one? We're only then, to your point, a week in. I mean, does this feel like it's going to drag on for quite a while as well?
Connell, I'm not quite sure about that, but we need the adversary to believe that we've got the staying power so that their strategy isn't just to hunker down and wait us out. But going back to the economic theme that you've really been focusing on, this sounds flippant, but the best thing the military can do to help is to win quickly. And I don't mean the war is over, but I mean achieve military objectives, which is to demolish the power projection capabilities of Iran, ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, the Navy, and drones, such that now flow through the Straits of Hormuz is no longer threatened. And opening back up those waterways can resolve a lot of these economic challenges. And it starts with the military winning by achieving its ultimate military objective.
Because I don't think there's any doubt about the fact that some segment, and it's not just on the left, people who oppose the president, of the American public, there's been this debate back and forth on the American right now for years, and the president himself even was part of it about foreign wars or endless wars or whatever you want to talk about, where people are going to start already asking questions about whether this is worth it for them, what's in it for us, especially if I've got to pay a lot more for the things I'm buying, especially if I have to pay a lot more to fill up my gas tank. That's your point about winning quickly.
Well, it is, and I think that the president and the administration needs to do a lot better of a job describing why this matters so that the American people have the staying power to back him. I don't think the administration has done a great job thus far, and I think it's incumbent upon them to describe to us why a little bit of short-term pain is in our long-term benefit, and I think we need to start doing that today.
General Teichert, thank you.